You're listening to The Brutally Honest with Cademan. I hope you enjoy. There's also a part of that where it's like, oh no, if I open the door for this girl, then people will have assumptions about me and that girl. And that's the worst thing, or something.
I think similar to people growing up without siblings of the opposite gender, the assuming that everything you do is a romantic gesture is also really unhealthy, because that also teaches you to view the opposite gender as a romantic thing rather than as your sisters or brothers in Christ. And so when you say like, oh, you open the door for so-and-so, is that because you have a crush on them or something? It really messes with people's brains, because then on the one side, it makes you think, oh, do I have a crush on them? Right. And then you think of that person differently. And then on the other side, if you're like, oh no, I don't, or I don't want to be seen that way, then it keeps you from doing things that are just helpful, respectful, and polite.
And that's, like, on the topic of crushes, it's weird because most of it is, like, made up.
Very true.
Like,
very, very true.
It's, like, so it's something, there's usually something that's real that sparks it, right? Mm-hmm. You usually have a certain, you admire the person in a certain way. And then you think, oh, well, maybe I like that person. And then you tell people, and they're like, oh, you totally like that person. Mm-hmm. And then it just becomes a massive spiral of emotions that most of them aren't even actually real or based on something that's real. It's just made up in your own head, and it's made up by the people around you. I speak not from experience at all, just people I see, definitely.
Well, I also think it is possible to be completely...
Well, no, it's not possible that I speak from experience. Nope.
Oh, you're really...
I've never had a crush.
That idea. Never, ever. Not even like the soda
Not
kind?
once. No, I have lots of those.
Oh, okay. But you have lots of crushes?
Yep.
Anyway, what I was saying was, I do think it is possible to be manipulated into having a crush. And not necessarily like on purpose, but I know in my early teen years, I had friends who would be like, who do you like? Do you like this person? Do you like this person? To the point where I'd be like, maybe I like this person. And it would have really no effect. But also I think when kids have crushes on people, and they and their friends do that whole talk about our crushes, I think you have a crush, whatever, it builds that person up to be so much more or so much different in their mind than they actually are.
Right.
And that becomes a big problem, because they expect that of the other person. They're disappointed when it doesn't happen. They think they're meant to be, or they're made for each other or something, and then they realize that person doesn't even know they exist, or that person is simply their friend, or there's that person likes a different person, which is the most heartbreaking thing.
Oh yeah, it's horrible.
For a teenager.
Super disappointing. Once again, I don't know from experience.
You would never know.
Because, that's not a caveman thing.
Not at all.
Anyway. Yep. No, but it's really weird. It's a weird topic. Especially because it's like, most people can't really define what a crush is, I've found. Like, I could like, write down a list of everyone's definition of a crush, open my door, and roll out the list, and no matter where you are in the world, you could see it roll past. Probably a couple times.
It's impressive. Very impressive.
It's a long list. But, yeah, no. It's a really weird topic.
A lot of times people want to associate crush with love, and I don't think that's a good thing. Because a lot of people who have crushes assume that they love the other person. I once saw something that said, if you're not sure if your feelings for someone are real or a crush, when they get a haircut, do you still like them? If they got their haircut and you don't like them anymore, it's probably simply a crush. Which kind of makes sense, because crushes are usually pretty superficial, so I can't say if you still like them after they get a haircut that you're in love with them. I don't agree with that. But I do think the crush part is interesting.
I don't know. It's interesting because there's a thing with physical appearance, which I don't know, from my experience that I don't have. That's never really been a big deal for me. I don't have that experience, so
Your
that's
experience that you've never had.
Yep.
Huh.
Because I've never had a crush.
I think
Not once.
I think that in the end, when when we are attracted to someone, in the sense of we might marry them, it's definitely not their looks that should attract us to them.
Right.
So why should we pay so much attention when we're 12 or 13 and looking at what someone looks like?
Right.
Because here's the depressing part: everyone gets old, and everyone is gonna look different.
Yep.
So,
unless they have a weird condition where they don't look different.
Chuck Everlasting, drink from the spring of everlasting youth.
Yeah, that would be weird.
That would be strange.
Also, I don't think so either. But might.
Never know. But I doubt it.
No.
Especially since death was our punishment.
But so, the question is, like, how would you separate, like, at what point do you separate a crush from, like, actual real romance? I mean, there's the haircut thing, but you can't force your crush to get a haircut. I mean, I guess you could, but probably wouldn't be a very good idea.
Here's the thing, I'm not married, so I haven't reached that point where I've had to separate completely. But one thing that I think of when I am attracted to someone, because I will just openly admit that I have had attractions to people and crushes on people. Caven never has. But, and you think like, oh, I like this person or something. If you're still drawn to other people as well, like, that's not the time to pursue that person. Because when you find the person that you're meant to be with, I don't think you will have, no, that's not to say you won't have, temptations to lust or like that kind of thing. But I mean, like, to that person, there's no, like, disappointment in getting into a relationship with them because you can't then be with other people, Like, I'm doing a really bad job of explaining this, but I feel like when you find the person that you're meant to be with, God will make it very clear in that you won't have, just not anyone will just turn your head while you're in your relationship with them or while you're interested in it.
That makes sense. It's like you're more comfortable in your relationship, so it's not like you aren't exploring other options. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so. You're not like you're not drawn in by other people because you care about that one person.
Right. So then that begs the question: is there one person you're meant to be with?
The soulmates question.
I
don't particularly think so.
I don't particularly think so either.
I think that God has people in mind for other people, but I don't think as in the soulmate thing. Like, if you have a soulmate out there, and say so-and-so named Krissa is your soulmate, but Krissa decides to marry David, then you're out of a soulmate. She married the wrong person. David had a soulmate elsewhere because Krissa wasn't David's soulmate. So now there's some other girl who doesn't have a soulmate. You don't have a soulmate, so that other girl, you might marry different people, and then those people's soulmates don't have a soulmate, and it just...
See, that's fun because when I did it with Destry, he brought up pretty much the same argument.
Really?
So that makes me laugh. Related. It's almost like that. Wow. Are you guys related?
It's a secret.
Oh, okay. Too bad I already told everyone.
Oh no! Did you release that one yet though? Because you could delete it.
No, not in an episode.
Oh,
Just I've never treated it like a secret.
Dang.
But, I don't know. I wonder if it's ever like my friend Destry and my friend Marina, which are siblings. I would think. I'm not sure I ever have told anyone your siblings.
You haven't.
Until now, when all the internet knows.
The whole internet is gonna know.
Yep. But regardless.
Back on the topic of soulmates.
It's I think what I tend to think on that is that who you marry is more of a wisdom thing and less of a destiny thing. If that makes sense. It's not like, the universal stars make a signal that says this is the person you have to marry and you're going to no matter what because they're your soulmate. But it's like, in the Bible it says don't marry a non-believer. And there's a bunch of areas where it's like, yeah, it really wouldn't be wise for me to pursue a relationship with that person. Just looking at it, I guess, logically. Mm-hmm. Like, thinking about actually what that would mean for your relationship and such.
Yeah. I mean, we both know plenty of people who have gotten into the wrong relationships or wrong marriages. So why would there be soulmates? It doesn't quite line up. If everyone's destined to be with this one soulmate, then why did that marriage not work out and that marriage not work out? And right. What is the reason for all this? Now, I'm not saying marriages don't work out because someone didn't marry the right person or something.
Right.
There are other reasons, but it just doesn't really seem right that you should just sit there and be like, oh, they will come to me at the right time, because it's a God thing, and like you said, it involves a lot of wisdom and also a lot of prayer.
Right. Yeah. No, and I think that's I don't know. I can't speak with any authority on this because I've never been in a relationship or anything. I've never even had a crush.
Never had a crush.
Not once. But I think honestly, just prayer would be the big thing. No matter what. I'm not even sure exactly what I'm trying to say. But if, you're stressed out about dating the wrong person, or stressed out about anything, really, just prayer, and, know that, God is with you, and, it's, sure, it's easy to make the wrong decision, and you're probably gonna make a few in your life, but, just hold on to God, and it will be fine. Last podcast, Michael talked about how he was in a previous relationship, and he believes that at the time he wasn't really ready to be in that relationship, but then being in that relationship is what made him ready. So it's even through your wrong decisions, God can use that for amazing things. So, even when you lose, it's still a win with God. And that's, I don't know,
that's so true, though. I think as long as we're ultimately trying to serve God and trying to please Him and trying to be in communion with Him, He will, we'll still make mistakes. We have human nature and we live in a sinful world and all that. But
and they'll laugh in our face.
Yes. But He'll use those things for good. And like Michael's previous relationship probably prepared him for so much in this one that things that might have gone wrong in this one won't, because he learned more in the last one. Like God can work all things together for good if you let him. And it's kind of exciting to see. But I also think that the Holy Spirit will help you and guide you into the right decisions. Like, I think your heart being open to God's leading will help lead you to whoever he wants you with. Because you may not have a soulmate, but God may have someone picked out for you. He probably does.
Right.
And so that's not to say that God's plan for your life is ruined if you make the wrong decision or marry the wrong person. He can, like you said, use all those things for good. But you being open to his leading is ultimately.
And that's the thing is, like, just pray about it. Like, if you have anxiety about something, just pray about it, and you don't need to worry. That's like, if like God will show you if you ask him. I find it likely he'll show you even if you don't ask him a lot of times. But like, just pray, and that's kind of something that I've been learning recently, because I've been very stressed out about many things, and I've kind of had to learn that God's there. He's not gonna let me make a unforgivable mistake. So there's that. Hopefully that's encouraging. Hopefully it's encouraging you to commune with God more.
Yeah, it's true. And I think another thing we have to remember about him showing us, his plan for our lives and all that, is that he has perfect timing. And you being worried about something and praying about it and not getting an answer immediately could be his way of saying, I need you to trust me and give it up to me, and once you can, maybe he'll give you the answer, or in his perfect timing. And I think a lot of the time we think like, oh, I prayed and I still don't know who my soulmate is, or something like that. Like, that's not really how it works, and he has perfect, wonderful timing. And a lot of times we'll look back and be like, oh, it's a really good thing he didn't give me that answer when I wanted it, or he didn't give me this thing when I needed it, or thought I needed it, or wanted it, because he does have absolutely perfect timing.
Yep, definitely. I had thought, no, what was it? Oh yeah, that's what it was. So thinking about, like one, like seeking God's guidance and stuff, since that's what we were talking about. There is, that doesn't mean you should sit around and do nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I heard a sermon by Francis Chan that he started, he opened the sermon and he was talking about, how people, like, in adoption, they're like, oh, we'll adopt if God tells us to. And then he talked about, it's like, well, the Bible says take care of orphans and widows. So, like, why would you assume not unless God says? Why wouldn't you assume so unless God says? Like, unless God says, oh, you're taking care of too many widows now.
Yeah.
You should, just, like, there's pretty clear on generally the right things you should do. And like, this could tie back into relationships. Don't start a relationship with a non-Christian. That's a pretty good basis. And, like, say if you follow that one, most of the time it's not gonna be too horrible. I can guess. And like, that's not to say there can still be like big mistakes in that.
Oh yeah.
But like, I guess it's one of those things where it's like, don't be too oh, I'm waiting for God to tell me of a certain thing, or whatever, when it's something that you can clearly look in the Bible and see, oh, God says do this. And if God tells you not to do it for whatever reason, then don't do it. But it's like, even when I was starting this podcast, I was like, oh, I don't know if this is like, like something that would be good, I guess. But then it's like people brought up to me, they were like, well, is it something that would be bad? I'm like, no, it wouldn't be bad. Why would it be bad? And it's like, so why worry about it then?
Yeah.
Like, if God says no, then, don't do it. But
yeah, there are some very clear commands in the Bible that I think a lot of people overlook. Like in the don't marry an unbeliever. Like we all think like, oh, I won't marry an unbeliever. Like it's that simple. But we're human and we have attractions to unbelievers sometimes, and that's when it gets harder. And then we have to take it back to the Bible and be like, no, it says don't do it, therefore don't do it. It's very specific, but and we look at it when we're not being tempted to do that, and we're like, oh, that will be so easy.
Right.
But it is harder, and we have to remind ourselves to go back to the Bible and see where it says do or don't do this or that.
Yep. True. So, with that, I mean, I think we can close out unless there's anything you want to add first, or...
Nothing that I can think of. Your calendar's on the wrong month.
It's also the wrong year.
I had a feeling, but I can't see that part from you.
That's from like 3 years ago.
It's got a calendar.
But yeah, anyway.
Nothing else I can think of.
I think the biggest takeaway from this is, boys and girls, they're different, but also somewhat the same in many ways. They aren't too special, so don't get too worried about that. And pray when you're scared and stuff.
And please open the door for your friend with a broken leg.
Unless they're a female. Goodbye!
And slam it in their face.
I hope you enjoyed that episode. I know I really enjoyed it. And a special thank you to Marina for being on this episode. If you did enjoy, you can find the podcast anywhere you look. If you go outside and look under a rock, you might be able to find it there. Probably not. That would be weird. But any place where you could find podcasts, this podcast is there. So, no matter where you listen to your podcast, you can probably listen to this one. And maybe you should. It's also on YouTube if you prefer that for some reason. It's there too. But what you should really do is just listen to it all the places, like every place you can find it, listen to it there. Because maybe one of the places it might be different. I mean, it's not, but it might be, so you should check it out in all the places. And also you should follow it on all the places if you want, because that would be cool.